All right, everybody, welcome back to part two. This is best practices for conversion optimization. And like I promised, this second part of the course is going to be all about implementable strategies. I'm going to go through all of the different types of creative assets, and I'm going to teach you all of the things that I've learned over the past few years on my own products, managing clients' products here at PickFu that you can start doing right away to start seeing higher conversion rates and higher performance on your listing. So I'm glad that you tuned in. Hopefully the first part gave you a good basis, a good understanding of what is conversion, why should you care, and the strategies you can start doing. This is where we're really going to take it home. So just to give everyone that reminder here, the target conversion rates for 2021 and beyond, don't think anymore about that 8, about that 20, about that 40%. Really start thinking about how can I have a conversion rate of at least 20%, 40%, but really trying to hit those conversion rates of 65+% for those great conversion rates. So like I said, this is going to be all about how do you actually do it? What are the actual strategies you can start doing? And the first thing that I'm going to begin with is main image. So main image is super important. This is what's going to convince someone when they're on your listing from that first page of search results. What can you do to actually increase the probability they're going to get excited, they're going to get interested about your product, and then want to go and learn more? So tip number 1 is aim for a compact and square main image. What do I mean by that? The way that Amazon, the way that the platform is set up is that the more square your image is, the larger it's going to display in search results. So if you look all the way on the left-hand side, that image is very tall vertically. The image in the middle is very wide horizontally versus the image on the right. What they've kind of done is they've condensed it. They've brought it in, and then they're going to fill up the frame with as little white space as possible, have it as much of a square as possible. And that's a little tip that you can do to make the image actually stand out from the competition. The second thing that you can do, and this is really straightforward and really easy to do, is to try to show your product in use. Right? Allow your customer to visualize from that first page of search results, what is this product and what does it do? If you remember back in part 1, we were all talking about the intent to buy. When someone lands, when they type in the product that they're looking for on Amazon, they know that they want to buy the product, right? But if you can, from the first page of search results, have your product stand out in a visual way, it not only is going to draw eyes to your specific listing, but it's going to help to reinforce in the customer's brain that, okay, I know what I'm searching for. Here, my brain is going to process very quickly that I'm visually seeing that this product does that thing. Let me click into the listing and let me learn more. So this is a quick PickFu test where we've shown this. This is for an apple slicer. And basically, this is going to peel the exterior skin off of an apple. And so if we compare the image on the left to the image on the right, which one do you think shoppers are going to prefer to see, right? The image on the right, is this a product that is a tool? Am I going to find it in a workshop? It's just a product on a white background. It's not so clear versus the image on the left. Now we've got this bright green apple. We see the skin of the apple being peeled off, right? So if you're shopping, like we said in part 1, if you're shopping in that distracted environment, this is really quick, really easy to see. Yep, that's the product I'm looking for. Let me go and click into the listing. What you really want to try to do is not only show the product in use, but if you can add a pop of color, it's really going to, again, help take the person out of that distracted environment, guide their eyes to your listing, and increase your CTR, that's your click-through rate, and then also increase your conversion rate. So on the left-hand side, that would be a good image. It's a fine image, the product on a white background. The middle would be a little bit better, but the option on the right is what I would call the best image because it's not only showing the apples, but the apples are much greener. They're much brighter. It's showing it in a much more vivid and dynamic way. So the more relevant the action, the higher the preference, right? And I've seen this time and time again in PickFu. I've seen this time and time again on client accounts that I manage. And so option C is good. It's showing this calf stretcher. It's showing the product being used zoomed in. But on the left, option B is even better because now it's showing a full body shot. It's showing that woman, she's sitting down, she's stretching out. So again, the more that you can show the product in use, the better. Now, when you're just starting out on selling, you're probably likely to get confused on this because if you look at some versions of the terms of service, it's going to say that you can't have additional items. It just needs to be the product on a white background. You might even hear some coaches, some different courses telling you you are only allowed to show the product on a white background. And while that might be true, there's other versions of the terms of service that very clearly and identically say the image must not contain gratuitous or confusing additional objects. And so what this is really trying to do is Amazon knows that if you put all these extra items, all these extra things into your main image, that's more clickbaity, it's more distracting. And so what I always recommend sellers try to do is think about, is what I'm doing to the image, right? Is this actually going to help my customer to make a more informed buying decision when they first start off? Or am I trying to do something that's just trying to get their attention? It's just trying to be distracting. And if you're on the side that is actually looking out for the customer, I think you're going to have very, very few issues. The actual policy of Amazon is if you have a main image violation, they're not going to pull your listing. They're not going to suspend you as a seller. All they're going to do is suppress the image, and they're going to make you put up a replacement image. What I recommend doing is focus on having a version that is less risky and more risky. If you're a new seller, I do strongly recommend pushing the lines a little bit. I do this on my own products. I've had my own images suppressed, and it's no big deal. The image gets suppressed, you come up with one that's better. One thing that I'll say, though, is in terms of risk and reward here, the image on the left-hand side is very risky. It's got these extra items on the left. We call these decals. They don't really add much extra. They don't add much value. But what I can deduce based on how the Amazon algorithm works is these aren't humans that go in and make this decision. These are computer programs. And what they're doing is they're actually looking for the white space on an image. So you'll notice here on the left-hand side of the screen, there's some white space versus this is all connected. And what I can tell is that if the extra items are connected to the product, it's less likely to get picked up by that bot, and therefore it's less risky. Again, like I said before, if you have a main image that gets suppressed, they're only going to take away that image and they're going to put up another one that's suitable. So on the right-hand side, we have one that's less safe. This is for a granola bar, and it's showing some of the extra ingredients that are inside. That's going to be your more risky one. So if you're going to try to do that for your main image, it's fine. It's pretty low risk overall, but always have a backup option that's ready to go. That's true to the word in terms of TOS, that's just showing the product on a white background. I hope that makes sense. The other thing that you can do, and I've started to see this more and more, I do this on my own products, is you can add in what I call eye candy, these extra little items, but try to actually make it seem like it's part of the product packaging. And so what you'll notice here on the screen is that this 22 grams of protein, this mint chocolate chip banner at the bottom, this is actually not part of the product packaging. But if you're just looking at first glance, it almost looks like it might be. And so what they've done is they've taken two really important features of this product and they've presented it in their main image to make it seem like it's actually part of the packaging when in reality it's not. You can take this a step further and actually display your packaging in a real way, but in a way that the product is not actually shipped. And so these cutting boards are obviously not shipped with the big one here, the medium one here, and the small one in the middle. But what they've done is they've taken their wrapping label that actually wraps around the entire packaging, and they've extended it, right, to make it seem like it's part of the packaging. Now, no shopper is going to get this and say, oh, well, this isn't exactly what I saw. They're going to see that the label goes all the way around. But what they've done now is they've taken some really important features, the other colors that this is sold in, and they've put it in a presentable way that's very safe in terms of TOS compliance. The other thing that you can do in terms of your main image is if you're selling a multi-pack item, put these different items, put the different multi-pack items in easily digestible associations. Remember earlier when I was talking about in part one that the brain is just a giant graphics processor, right? Your brain is trying to make the easiest work out of what it's visually seeing. So if I'm selling this car vacuum, option A, it's a little bit confusing, right? We've got the steam in the left, we've got the wind being sucked in, we've got the attachments, versus on the right-hand side here, we've got the actual vacuum itself, we've got the bag, and we've got the attachments. They're grouped by the likely association, so it's very easy for the brain to digest, and it's no question that and why option B is the winner. So again, I'm showing it here. We've got the case, we've got the tool, we've got the attachments. This is another really good example, right? This is for a pack of coffee cups and stirrers. It might take you a minute to understand what's the difference between option B and option A. And what you'll find is that option C, rather, shows the cups there, where option B doesn't. So again, think about how can my brain easily digest what's going on? I see, okay, now I'm not just getting one cup. I can see I'm getting a multi-pack of cups, but it's also coming with stirs. It's also coming with caps. So now my brain is going to be able to easily check this off and move forward, right? We've got the cups, we've got the lids, we've got the stirrers. So anytime you're going into a category, if you go there and you see that there's a whole wide range in terms of what competitors have for their main image, then that is an opportunity, right? These are products that I might want to go in and sell. And a good example of this is this massage gun. And so when I looked at this massage gun about a year ago, I would see two different types of main images. I'd see one where they weren't well organized, and I'd see one or two sellers only that had it really well organized, broken down by the different types. If I go to page one now for massage gun, almost every single seller is going to be doing the exact same thing, right? This is the nature of selling on Amazon. When you come up with something that works, you start to gain that conversion rate. Amazon starts to reward you with the algorithm. Other people are going to start to copy. So if you're launching a new product, you're looking through Helium 10 and you see there's something like this, there's only one or two people that have a very clear and well set up main image. You go into the listing and there's a lot of opportunity. Move in quick, because 6 months, a year later down the road, everyone's is going to start to look exactly the same. And then it's much harder to pick up market share. It's much harder to pick up rank in that market without having to do things like drop your price and reviews. Not many new sellers are going to sell different color variations right off of the bat. But let's say you're an experienced seller and you are launching different color variations. One really great tip that you can do is show your different color variations from the first page of search results in your main image. And what this is going to do is it's going to allow someone to see from the first page of search results, is this product, do they have the color that I want, or do they not have the color that I want? And so what this is going to do is it's actually going to decrease your click-through rate. Less people are going to come to the listing, but the people that do come, now they already have an idea. Oh, I want to go and buy the blue mask. I saw it from the first page of search results. Let me go and click into the listing. Right? This, again, is really, really helpful to do because you can't go in your title. You won't have enough space to say milk frother, red, black, silver, purple, green, et cetera, et cetera. But you can show that in your main image. And again, be really clear, be really straightforward from the beginning what you have there. So I'm going to go to the next part, which is product packaging. In the earlier example, I gave you this Thrasio example, how they went from $2 to $20 million in sales on Angry Orange. I explained that they didn't get there from just going to a designer and saying, make me something that looks better. They went through a lot of different things in between, a lot of different concepts and variations in between. So product packaging is probably one of the most important things you're going to do. It's also one of the things as new sellers, I see way too many new sellers just take the default packaging that was given to them by the manufacturer and they just say, sure, I'll just go with that. I don't recommend doing that. And you see how well it worked out for Angry Orange in this example. But why did it work so well, right? A lot of people are going to look at the Angry Orange example and they're going to say, well, it was a beautiful, bright orange bottle. Of course, it's going to work. But it really came down to a lot more things and about how different features of the product were communicated from the packaging. So if you look at this first bottle, this is kind of jumbled, right? It's like the text is all a little bit different in terms of fonts. There's all this extra information here. Versus if I look at the new product packaging, why did this work so well? Well, of course, we've got the bottle. But then what they've also done is they decided to make the brand name Angry Orange. They made that much smaller. What they made the biggest on the packaging was what the product actually did, the words odor eliminator, right? Instead of having all the different use cases there at the bottom, they realized that the biggest application of using this product was a pet deodorizer. So you'll see the image of the dog and the cat, right? I want you to start thinking when you go to design your product packaging, what are the most important things that someone needs to know about this product? And how can I put that right in front of the customer's face? Again, think about them in that distracted environment. How can I give them exactly what they want to know so that they don't have to ask a lot of questions? They can just jump straight in and go and buy the product. Next thing that I'm going to talk, before I go into infographics, if you're a new seller, I'm just going to stop for a second and say, focus on your product packaging, right? Get this right from the beginning. You do not want to go your MOQ is 500 or 1,000 units. You don't want to go send those products into FBA, see that they're not selling, see that they're not converting, right? And then have to pull those items or wait till those sell or liquidate the current items. Get your product packaging right from the beginning. When we were talking about main image, right? Your main image is not allowed to have text. A really clever way around that is if your product packaging is set up like an infographic, and it displays the information that's really key, it makes your brand look reputable, it is going to pay dividends. Spend a little bit of money, come up with a couple of different designs, make your packaging look good. All right, we're about halfway through. That's a good segue to our next point, which is all about infographics. So infographics, the biggest tip that I can give here, the biggest best practice is apply the 5-second rule to see which graphic conveys the clearest message. So for here, we have an insulated water bottle. It's going to show how this water bottle can keep beverages hot or it can keep them cold, right? And so what I've done is I've gone and found 3 competitors that all have a very similar graphic. And then what I did is then, in this case, I uploaded them to PickFu, and I wanted to see, okay, out of all of these graphics, all trying to do the exact same thing, which one is the most effective? What I call the 5-second test, though, is if you take this graphic, if you show it to someone, your friends, your family, someone who doesn't have any prior knowledge about the product, and you show it to them for 5 seconds, you take it away and you say, what was this graphic trying to show you? If the answer that they give you is far different from what you anticipated, then your graphic is probably too busy, it's too confusing. It's not going to work in that distracted environment that we talked about. Remember, the name of the game when it comes to conversion rate is all about efficiency. How quickly and how easily can you communicate what you want to talk about to your customer? I'm going to skip through that one. Again, what I recommend is go beyond leverage text and go beyond contextual information. So again, think about your brain being a giant graphics processor. If we've got the image on the left-hand side, this is pretty good. It's trying to compare, you've got regular chips, you've got these pop chips. Clearly, it's showing that you can eat more pop chips, and it's going to have about the same effect. That would probably pass the 5-second test, but the one on the right is infinitely better because it gives you some text to drive that visual point home. Here's the number of gummies you can eat from a normal brand. Here's ours, the amount of sugar in a new brand. You can eat much more gummies with this, right? So think about combining a visual message with the text message. These product comparison graphics, when I had my agency, we used to do a lot of these. Again, think about a customer in the distracted environment. Think about, is someone going to go through and look through and read all these checks? Probably not. These are much, much less effective than something on the right-hand side. So instead of trying to compare all of these different factors of your product versus the competitor, think about picking one single point. So what they've done here is they're showing that their phone holder is going to have this so that it's not going to block your view, and the competitors is going to block the view. Stick to one singular point versus having complicated charts. If you're doing a sizing graphic, these are very common and very effective. Rather than just showing, hey, this is 0.4 inches or this cable is 2 feet long, always try to include a sizing point for reference. Again, the human brain is going to group things by association. So rather than just telling me that this drive is 0.4 inches thick, now I'm seeing it between the fingers. My brain can easily think about, okay, 0.4 inches. I don't know exactly how big that is, but there it is in my hands. Same thing with a cable that's 2 feet. How big is 2 feet? I don't know. But in this graphic, it's showing me, oh, well, that seems like it's a pretty big distance between where the cable ends and where the end of the desk is. That's about how long I'm going to be running this cable in my own life. Again, it's going to help that customer move past those objections and say, okay, this cable is going to be long enough for what I need. Another really cool tip that you can do is apply branding themes consistently across your image gallery. So this example here for these diapers, they've kind of created and they don't put their brand name in each one, but they've done their little brand logo. They've followed the same color scheme. Remember from part one, your goal as a seller is you want someone to consume as much information, as much of your images as possible. And one of the great ways to keep them clicking to all of the images in your gallery is have it kind of like a slideshow. It kind of leads into the next, leads into the next. The brain wants to complete a sequence, right? So if you have a bunch of disjointed images that don't all seem linked, you're most likely going to have someone click 2, 3, maybe 4 images in, and then they're going to go and see other parts of your listing. Versus if you have something that looks like it flows together, the brain is going to want to get to the end, even if it's just clicking through quickly, which is going to increase your conversion rate. Now, we know that about 70% of all the traffic on Amazon comes from mobile shopping. So a really big tip here is don't just shoot for a mobile-friendly image, shoot for an ultra mobile-friendly image. All 4 of these images are going to destroy the 5-second test. What they're doing is they're just showing very quick image, really easy to understand and digest text, And so now you can just click, 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 very quickly, very efficiently. Someone is going to understand 4 really big features of your product, and it's going to work great on a mobile device like a smartphone. When you're doing a product anatomy graphic, so saying, hey, here's a part of the product that I want you to focus on, don't just say, hey, here's a flathead hose. You need to understand why it matters. So put the feature and very quickly why it matters. Flathead hose is perfect for those hard to reach areas, right? Much more impactful. Again, going to help that customer check off those boxes in the brain. If your product is something that works in a variety of scenarios, don't just say that this works for these different scenarios. Show the product in use. Allow the customer to visualize the product in those different scenarios. So you can take this, share this with your designer. Really easy, really cheap to do. You're just going to put the product on a white background in the middle, and then you're going to have the different scenarios around. Allow your customer to visualize it. Remember from part 1, the brain is a giant graphics processor, right? When you get closer to holidays, right, create seasonal graphics. This is something to have great in your image gallery. You'll notice one here for Christmas, and then you'll notice this Burt Bees one, which is all about COVID. This came out at the beginning of COVID for their lip balm. Another really great thing that you can do is a customer testimonial graphic. Now, the image standards say you're not allowed to have testimonials inside of the actual image gallery, but what you can do to kind of get around this, on the left-hand side would be risky, right? You're saying 5 stars and you're showing what the review is, versus what I like to do is I like to show a picture of the product. I like to put 5 stars and then in quotes, 3 really straightforward features of the product. Again, the brain is smart. It's going to put together that you are trying to show these are things that customers said. Okay, we're going to keep rolling here. We've got about 8 minutes left. Lifestyle images. If you're working on a budget, a monochromatic lifestyle or a textured flat lay is probably one of the most cost-effective and one of the most beautiful things that you can do. So all you're going to do is you're just going to get a monochromatic. Monochromatic just means one color. You're going to drop it down onto an environment. You're going to put some relevant props in. So these are all really good examples. On the right-hand side here, you've got a textured flat lay. So you can go to a hardware store, a Home Depot, and you can go and get some fake wood. You drop it on the environment, and then you're just doing a flat lay, which is just a top-down shot, the product with some props. These look beautiful. They're very cheap to do. Another way that if you're working on a budget is you can actually leverage user-generated content. So these are more realistic life shots. A good website for this is going to Upfluence. You can hire influencers. You can also go to Instagram. So if you're selling a fitness product, go find an Instagrammer that has a really good feed. Go and contact them and say, hey, $300-400, can I pay you shipping my product and go and take me some shots that I can use for my lifestyle? If you're launching a product and you've got the budget, and again, I recommend investing in creative, lifestyle is worth getting right. So invest in the actual shoot, work with an agency that's not going to just take your lifestyle, but they're going to coordinate things like coordinating the props, coordinating the outfits like it's done here on the right-hand shot. One of the things that I recommend is photography lifestyle shoots can be very expensive. So do extensive research beforehand in terms of what works, right? Try to understand who is the target market, what kind of outfit should they be wearing, what kind of environment, right? The brain is going to focus on these small details. In a case study that we did with Kevin King, we had different agencies competing. And one of them, what they decided to do, he was trying to sell this hand sanitizer. Prior to doing the lifestyle shoot, they went and got stock images of 3 different examples of people using hand sanitizer. And they went to go and see which one of these scenarios was most relatable to people. And they found that option A was the one people liked the most. So then they went, took this as inspiration, took this as the peg, and then used it to create something that looked even better. A better looking purse, better looking nails, really good outfit. Okay, I'm going to skip that one. Basically, this is just a really quick tip that if you're showing multiple color variations, at least have one graphic either in your A+ or in your image gallery that shows all of the image variations together. For A+ content, again, if you're a brand new seller, you might not be doing this as much, but basically what I'll say is that less is more when it comes to A+ content. Back in the day, we used to add a ton of extra information. And what I'll say is that you'll say more with a beautiful banner than you will with a paragraph. Seriously. So for this example of the A+ content that I have up, it's very big, it's very bold, it's very easy to understand, very easy for the brain to digest. So this is an example where they've gone and they've made it even more minimal. right? Think about utilizing your A plus content in mobile friendly layouts. Having a busy A plus content layout is fine, but it should really be reserved for a more technical product, right? Let other parts of your listing really explain these really detailed parts. Put that in the text descriptions in your bullet points. This is an example for a GoPro. So it's an expensive product. There's a lot of technical features to it, a lot of different things you can do. So it makes sense that it would have a little bit more of a beefy display. Okay, video here. Again, not as many brand new sellers are going to jump into video, but this is a very, very valuable tool. If you're putting on a video, one that's going to display in pay-per-click advertising, it's going to display in the search results, focus on having a text-based informational loop, right? So I've actually taken screenshots. This thing, all 4 of these images just play on a loop. So rather than trying to have something that's very complex, very difficult, have a short video, most likely something that's text-based. It's something that you can watch without sound and it's still going to make sense. And it's going to focus on the key features of the product, getting someone to click into the listing. This is another example for a fitness gym rope, a jump rope, a fitness jump rope. And so what they've done here is, again, they're just showing a guy, right? They're showing a girl jumping on the jump rope, and then they're just popping. Text-based, you don't need to have the audio on for this to make sense. And they're showing the product in use with a couple features of the product. Another thing that you can do that's highly effective, again, thinking about how the brain processes information, is to show split screen presentation, right? So they're showing high stretch. They're showing someone using the product, and then they're showing the cheetah. Moisture wicking. They're showing someone using the product. They're showing the desert. Your brain, it doesn't take much to put these things together and to understand what you're trying to send here. It's going to process that information, and it's going to help you make a better decision. This actually is quite a good tip for new sellers, and that comes down to 3D renders. And so if you have a product where the product packaging is the product, so a supplement, a consumer packaged good, 3D renders are almost always going to look better than the product itself. You'll notice here that both of these are 3D renders. And the reason why is because it looks so perfect, your brain doesn't really need to see those imperfections, right? You can use 3D renders if you have a product that is either glossy or reflective or metallic. 3D renders are going to look much, much better. For those of you who don't know, 3D renders are just a digital visualization of the product. None of these products are real. They're all made in a virtual environment. And the cool thing, especially for new sellers about 3D renders, is once you've created the render, you can go and put this on a white background. You can put this into different lifestyle scenarios, and it's going to look really good every single time. Also, the cost compared to actual real life photography over the long term, if you get a good render from the beginning, tends to be much cheaper. The really cool thing about 3D renders as well is that once you've created the model, you can go and put this into any scenario you want. So in this example here, I have a Tesla, right? And then I've got this background. And then what I can do is I can drop this into any environment and it's going to look really clean. I can even change the color of the car. I can change the size of the car. I can change all of these things. And so what I've seen this done really well with is for people who are working on a limited budget, they'll go spend $300-$400 on getting a model done. And then instead of going and doing all of the lifestyle photography work in a studio, they'll just do it with renders. Sometimes they'll even simulate their product on a shelf like this, and it makes the brand look much bigger than it actually is. This won't apply to many sellers unless you're an experienced seller, but if you are either an Amazon vendor or you have a dedicated account manager, you can actually add 360-degree photos. This is going to show up as not a video, not an image, but something else. And I've seen this to increase conversion rate by almost 70%, and that's serious. Now, I'm almost at the time here, so I'm going to leave you with these core elements. Again, you can hit me up afterwards, or maybe we can have another follow-up presentation, but these are all the different things in terms of all of these different creative assets that I'd recommend. Try playing with these, try tweaking with these to see which one's going to work the best, right? So you can just go and check out these slides later. The slides will be included, everything from branding, A+ content, video, storefront design, etc. A/B testing. I'm not going to talk at all about PickFu. You can use it inside of the Helium 10 tool, but there is a tool that everyone should be using as soon as you can as a seller, and that's called Managed Experiments. So basically what this is over the past 2 years, Amazon has been rolling out a tool inside of Seller Central that's free, and it's available to most sellers that actually lets you test different versions of your product title, of your product images, mainly your main image, actually only your main image, in your A+ content. So you can actually upload different versions of these into Seller Central and get real feedback in terms of which one works. Now, you will have to be a brand registered seller. You will have to have ASINs that are eligible. So you'll have to have a certain number of traffic before you're eligible to start running these experiments. And you can only run one at a time. But this is very, very valuable. I don't have enough time to really dive into it in this tool. But basically what you do is you go into manage your experiments, you select the type that you want, and it works really well. What I'll say as the key takeaway here, I'm just clicking through slides, is that it works. They're going to give you a little report at the end in terms of which conversion rate is actually better, which different creative asset works better. But the big takeaway is that this is brand new. Many sellers, even advanced sellers that I know, are still not using this. And so you're going to gain, after doing test after test after test, you're going to gain a little bit in terms of your conversion rate. It's not going to happen overnight. These take 4 to 10 weeks to run, depending on how long you want to let it run. But this is going to be a big game changer in terms of who is testing on a regular basis, month after month after month, who's running these managed experiments. And the sellers that are doing this, they're going to see a cumulative effect in terms of their conversion rate. So with that being said, that's where I'll wrap up the presentation. Thanks for sticking around those extra couple of minutes. If you have questions, if you want to download these slides, or if you want to discuss more, feel free to hit me up, Anthony@pickfu.com. And thank you so much for joining Freedom Ticket 3.0 and watching part 1 and part 2 of this presentation. Thanks so much and have an awesome day. Happy selling.